Today our learning goal is to identify angle relationships created when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal. A transversal is a line that cuts through two parallel lines, creating angle relationships. Okay, and this is the notes that we took in class yesterday. Line C is called the transversal. Here we have line C right here. Okay, lines A and B are our parallel lines. Here we have B, here we have A. Okay, and you should notice that when that happens, there are four angles on the top, four angles on the bottom, for a total of 8 angles. Number 1 asks me to give all the alternate interior angles. The interior angles are the ones inside the parentheses. So I'm going to erase what I've highlighted already. And I'm going to highlight the interior angles. The interior angles are angles 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're the angles in between the parallel lines. And remember, like we said already, there's only 2 angle measurements in the entire picture. All of the obtuse angles, like number 4, are going to be one measurement, and all of the acute angles are going to be another measurement. So notice, angle 3 is an acute angle, and it's on the opposite side of the transversal as angle 6. We call them alternating interior angles. Also, angle 4 alternates with angle 5. These angles are all congruent to each other, or we can say they're equal to each other. So again, they are equal or congruent to each other. Equal or congruent. Congruent is an equal sign with a squiggle on top. Congruent means that they are the same measurement. Okay, next we're going to look at the alternating exterior angles. So let me erase my highlighting. And let me highlight for you the exterior angles. So I'm going to do those in green. So angles 1 and 2 are exterior, and 7 and 8 are exterior. So if we look at those, angle 1 and angle 8 are both obtuse angles. Therefore, and they're on one side of the transversal and 8's on the other. So they're alternating exterior. Also, angle 2 is acute. So is angle 7, and they're exterior angles on the opposite side of the transversal. So they are also alternate exterior angles. And again, these are equal. I'm going to write congruent first, or equal. So these are either congruent or equal, whatever you want to call them, but they will be the same measurement. The next kind of angles that we have is we're going to look at the consecutive interior angles. Consecutive means one after the other. So the first pair of angles that I want to look at is going to be angle 4 and angle 6. Those are consecutive interior angles. My other pair that I'm going to look at and show you are angles 3 and angle 5. Okay, if you take angles 3 and 5, or angles 4 and 6, and we add them together, we will end up with 180 degrees. So their sum is equal to 180. Okay, next, it says to give all of the consecutive exterior angles. I'm crossing this out, crossing it out because their answers are wrong that they gave us here, so we're ignoring them. And I've taught geometry, and we don't do a lot with consecutive exterior angles. So finally, we're going to look at the last one, which is the vertical angles. Okay, our vertical angles. I'm going to erase what I have here. Vertical angles are opposites of each other. So again, we need to remember the word opposites. They're directly opposite each other. And they are equal or congruent. You can use either symbol for now. Okay, so if you look at angle 1, angle 1 is directly opposite angle 4. So they're vertical. Angle 3 is directly opposite angle 2. We call them vertical. Angle 5 is directly opposite angle 8. We call those vertical. And finally, angle 7 is directly opposite angle 6. They are also vertical angles. Okay, next, we're going to look at the next page and color code these. On this page, it shows the color coding. Okay, if you don't have different colors to color code these with, what you can do is you can give them letter names. So for example, if you look at the corresponding angles, if you don't have a yellow, you could actually write in here like the letter A, and then over here write the letter A. So we know that this angle and this angle are congruent, and they're also corresponding. Same thing, you could then look at the next one. We could call this angle or this letter B, and this also letter B. And again, we know that those are equal to each other. So if you don't have different colors, you can use letters. Okay, if you notice, same thing with our vertical angles here. This angle right here is opposite this angle. The blues are opposite each other. The greens are opposite each other, and the oranges are opposite each other. If we look at our alternate interior angles, okay, these two red angles are congruent to each other. This guy's acute and this guy's acute. We also have our blue angles. They're also congruent to each other. Notice they're both obtuse angles. Alternating exterior. Notice our green guy here, he's obtuse. Our green guy down here, he's obtuse. And our blues are both acute, notice. Consecutive interior angles. We have these two oranges here. They will add up to 180. And we have our two greens. They will add up to 180. And finally, these are actually done correctly now. We have our consecutive exterior angles. Notice, we have an obtuse and then an acute. An acute up here and an obtuse down here. Now, all of these, okay, corresponding angles are always congruent to each other or equal. I'll just put the congruent sign. Vertical angles are also always congruent or equal to each other. Interior angles, when they alternate, are always congruent or equal. Alternating exterior are congruent to each other. When we get to consecutive interior and consecutive exterior, their sum is equal to 180. Sum is 180. I'm not making you memorize these. On any classwork, homework, quizzes, or tests, you will be allowed to use these notes. So please keep them in a safe spot.